Games in this podcast range from E to M.
Hey everybody, welcome to the official Xbox podcast, the only podcast coming to you from inside Xbox. And as you can see, we may be up for a temporary rebrand as we are coming to you from inside Blizzard Entertainment in Irvine, California. Now, throughout the week, we have spoken to the Diablo team and the Overwatch team who are lining up a huge 2026 for their particular franchises. You will definitely want to check out those episodes. Super informative. You can find them on the Xbox YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or wherever you happen to be watching this one. And this week, we have also learned that the World of Warcraft and Hearthstone teams are also lining up an incredible year as well. So with everything going on from Blizzard, it feels like the perfect time to catch up with the president of Blizzard. It is so great to see you, Johanna Faries. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and welcome to HQ.
Thanks for having us here. Like, I'm taking a lot of design notes. I'm like, studio, can we get like some really cool collectibles? Like, there's things we can bring back, I think, to make the Xbox podcast a little bit better. So we talked about it at the top. A massive year for Blizzard here in 2026. It may be the 25th anniversary for Xbox, but Blizzard is in its 35th year. So it really puts things into like a context. It's also the 30th anniversary of Diablo. A lot of ways of making me feel old this year because I've been...
Likewise.
From the start, from Diablo, 10 years of Overwatch. So I just want to know, how are you and the team feeling now that the spotlights are out there? There was the big broadcast, and now that this year is really off and running.
We're so excited. I'm proud to be a part of it. This has been planned for months, if not well over a year. And we can talk more about how it all came together. But you're exactly right. I think everyone's all hands on deck. I think we're thrilled with how the spotlights have come together to ladder up to something even bigger on behalf of the entire company. But each franchise, each game has something very unique. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation here. So, I think we've been really thoughtful about let's give our players of these games what they're hoping for and hopefully delight them and surprise them in some big ways. I think those have landed. And we'll just continue to sort of prime what we hope to be a very, very big year as we continue on here in 2026.
I think when there's like an anniversary and it's like, yeah, of course, it's every 5 years, every 10 years, people talk about certain things. But there was this video that you all revealed when the Blizzard Showcase was announced. The way it hit me, like the feels of like, wait, I had a monitor like that, or I had a keyboard like that, or the sounds of even a disc going into a tray. It's amazing how much this stuff means to people. It's not nostalgia just for nostalgia's sake, but it's like the fact that things are still going and are still just so much a part of our lives.
Yeah, and credit to so many people at Blizzard who came together and said, how can we creatively honor the legacy of 35 years, but do it in a out-of-the-box way, and take even ourselves back on the journey of where we've been, how we've gotten to this point. There's so much to be proud of. The way in which that was hearkening back to the past in a powerful way, brought the feels. I think we've all seen it in different ways. I continue to kind of tear up, even seeing it hundreds of times now. And I think it also was a testament to, as we talked about in the spot, the craft, right? This is human souls working tirelessly to think about every detail, every pixel, every story, every character. I think that is what sets Blizzard apart in many ways, but I think the way that the teams concentrated that feeling and also set us up for, an exciting, bold future to come was really brilliantly done.
And that was handcrafted. Like when I found out, actually, a lot of folks that are working on this podcast here worked on that. And they physically lined up a huge table that was like 30 feet long or something.
Yeah, it was like codename Long Table because that's what it was, in many ways.
Anyone who found that codename would have no idea what that was going to be. The perfect hiding in plain sight codename. Yeah. So Johanna, you've been with Blizzard for a couple of years now. You were, I'd like to just learn a little bit more about you. You were the general manager for a little franchise called Call of Duty. I think we're all familiar with it. You also worked for another thing I think we might all know a little bit about, the NFL. You were there for a decade working on things like fan development. And I'm sure you have a lot of stories, and that could be its own podcast on its own. But for the Blizzard fans and the players out there, what do you want them to know about you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I have had a really fun career thinking about communities and communities at scale and passion and legacy and what does it mean to sort of build mega entertainment experiences around that passion, right? I could go on and on about why I think where I sit now is like the coolest way to spend my time, no disrespect, but it was more a way to kind of bring these other experiences that I've had at the NFL, bring what I've learned, seen, stitched together at COD, and come over here and really say, look, in many ways, Blizzard represents, I would say, arguably the best IP in the world. And on top of that IP are some of the most thriving and dynamic global communities in the world. And so let's have fun with that. Let's think about how we harken back to legacy, how we unearth wonderful things from the past while also sort of priming our future in a more modern way. And so I think there's sort of a both and that we've been running here. We have so much to be proud of, but this is a look forward moment, right? And how do we shape the next 35 years in a big way?
So let's do that.
Yeah.
So last year, of course, had a number of really big moments for Blizzard. For me, the high point was enjoying and getting a feel for the Paladin in Diablo.
Yes.
Of course, housing began to roll out in WoW. New heroes dropped in Overwatch, among many other updates and features. But the announcements for this year, they feel like an order of magnitude bigger. It's obviously very early in the year. I'm just really curious, like, the way things lined up with all of these announcements landing at the same time. Was it serendipity? Was it something where it was like, no, everyone wants to go in big for year 35? I'm just really, is this like the culmination of years of work? Or is it just like, wow, it really timed out awesomely that everyone's got a big update?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, to be honest. Some of it was organic. Every one of our franchise teams and our game teams within those franchises think a lot about what do we want to do next year? What do we want to do 5 years from now? Maybe what do we want to do 10 years from now? And we've organized, I think, our thinking and our strategic planning to make sure that that comes together in a really thoughtful way. It's very intentional how we've slate planned into the future. And we've talked a little bit about that, like how do we maintain a cadence? We're excited, but we're hungry. We have things we want to launch. We have things we want to, get out there into the world and start learning and being in conversation and being in gameplay with our players. At the same time, the inorganic part, I think, was we sat back, I certainly did, well over a year ago, and I said, look, there's something bigger going on here, and I think we can marry this. I think we can make this, to your point, a party on behalf of all of Blizzard Entertainment. And again, kudos to so many people who are willing to say, hey, there's actually a way we can make almost a symphony orchestra come together in this moment instead of just doing it franchise by franchise. And hopefully if you're a fan of Blizzard, you're going to feel something bigger than just, oh, I got what I needed from Overwatch or I got what I needed from Diablo, right?
So it's not just teams playing in the same sandbox, at the same time, but really playing together.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So when we had the chance to speak with the Overwatch team, and that episode was a really fun episode, we asked them about dropping the 2 from the name. And they told us it was something that they wanted to do and that you had supported in them that. And I'm just really curious, like, what the conversation is like. Like, when you're working with these teams, they come to you with a unique or a non-traditional sort of ask. And, like, what is the process like?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love bold thinking. And I loved that the teams came together and said, look, this is a big page turn for Overwatch. The universe that it represents, this is going to be a year-long arc in terms of narrative and character development. We're bringing in 10 new heroes, but it's so much more than just,
Yes.
Playable heroes right now. It's about sort of bringing back the power of Overwatch's lore, which I've always been a big fan of, and I know so many other players are hungry for, right? So I heard the pitch, if you will, but I too, as a player and as a member of Blizzard, said this is a beautiful recommendation. How do we just set it up for success, right? So that we can have it represent exactly what we want it to symbolize, which is this is a reset for a timeless game. We don't want to be locked into chronology necessarily, and we're a forever franchise. Let's get after it. And when I asked, and you have to a person, 20 plus, 30 plus people, again, in unison, being strategic and intentional about the decision, it's an easy yes from my vantage point.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, Blizzard is in its 35th year, which is such a long time in gaming. I think back to what gaming was in 1991, which was me on a Sega Genesis or on a computer that took like 5 minutes to boot up.
Yes.
Not many game companies get to make it this far. And so I'm just wondering, when you're thinking about the vision for this company, this collection of like enduring franchises and great teams, how far down the road do you look? Do you look 5 years? Do you look 10 years down the line? Do you look 35 years down the line? What does Christmas 2061 look like?
Yes. We are working both in the here and now and have to be agile around that and really deliver, while also having a very long-term lens. This goes back to the planning piece. I know it's not always as exciting, but it is, to me, fundamental to being, again, intentional and collaborative around who do we want to be when we grow up in many ways? What do we want the next 35 years to look like? What's the vision? What's the direction? And we've set a lot in motion with respect to that, making sure we're clear on it, making sure we're coordinated on it, making sure that every year from this moment forward, there's sort of a reliability that players can depend on us to launch in the big ways, launch in the surprising ways, maybe take some zags. Not everything's going to hit. That's gaming, but in many ways, let's understand where are we going, not only as a company, but by franchise, by game, right? Where do we want this all to ladder up to? So I feel really proud about that. I think, at minimum, I think if you were to ask any of our major teams right now, hey, what's your plan for the next 3-4+ years? They have a very clear answer. And then we understand holistically how that all adds up. So I'm excited.
I wish when someone asked me what my 5-year plan is, or that I could say something. Yeah. I guess the one thing I could confidently say, probably still playing Diablo, and that will
love that. We want you to do that.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Okay, let's talk about something very uniquely Blizzard, and that's BlizzCon returning here in 2026. I've never been. I'm going to be here this year along with the podcast. We're very excited.
Awesome.
Also, your first BlizzCon since taking the helm here at Blizzard. So what do you think is the most important thing for Blizzard to deliver at BlizzCon? Is there something you're particularly excited for or really wanted to see in this return?
There's a ton to be excited about. I mean, first and foremost, though, community is everything that BlizzCon stands for, right? And so we want to make sure that everything we bring forward, as exciting as it is, it's got to be rooted in, this is our gathering well. This is where, you're reuniting, we're regathering in many ways. And so how do we create the best gathering space? How do we forge new bonds? As far as, what we have to announce, I would say it's also very exciting and intentional. Even right now, we have a huge swath of announcements that our games have just brought forward, right? And why I say that is I think we're pretty excited to say, and there's still BlizzCon coming in this calendar year, right? Imagine what else we're stacking up. We've got to execute on that. We've got to make sure we're delivering in a big way. But I think the teams, again, are cooking. They're very excited to bring forward some major announcements, some maybe surprises. At the end of the day, when I sit in my chair, though, I want to be able to high five our employees at the end of the day, right? Like for me, I'm very passionate about not only the player experience, of course. That's what we're here to deliver on. But we also owe it to ourselves to say, are we proud as employees about what we put forward and what that represents in terms of the company that we work for and the work that we get to do together? And what do we want that all to ladder up to, again, where if you are part of it, from back of house, if you will, you're feeling just as inspired about what we brought forward as you are as a player.
Yeah, and that's so important. It's the reason why so many of us are here.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we love what we do and we love the things that if it excites us, it probably will excite our players.
Yes.
So, yeah, very cool. So we're getting very close to the end here. So I've got a final question. Blizzard, a lot of folks have announced some really big things here already. Obviously, as you said, you have to have more up your sleeve with BlizzCon coming down the line here in 6-7 months. I can't believe I just said that, but my daughter right now is getting on me. Out of everything, and it could be something small, it could be just more broadly. So what are you most excited about that is coming down the line here this year?
Well, we've touched on a lot of it. I think there's this sense of momentum and there's this sense of camaraderie around what we're doing. Again, it's not scattershot. This is a very thoughtful slate of experiences that we're putting forward into the world. And as I mentioned, I think in many ways, I just want the teams to feel empowered, that we took big swings, we believe in those swings, we're excited to get in and play alongside our community, hear the feedback, pivot if things aren't necessarily going the way we want. That's part of being agile. But at a broader level, I think there's just an energy around this moment and how is this sort of a launching pad for a big future. It's very fulfilling to be able to come into work and feel busy in that way, pressure in that way, stakes in that way. I think we're all really proud of being able to try and pull it off. But again, it's many years in the making here. I think this is just very much the beginning. I know you often kind of hear that, but I think 26 in many ways really represents a long road ahead of us in terms of things to be excited about.
And 35 years in, like
Yes.
just hitting the prime, which is just very cool. So, Joanna, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking time to talk to us on the Xbox podcast here, and also taking over your space. This is coming home with me. I know that
You're
that will come
welcome
out if I'm not
anytime.
careful. So, but thank you so much for that. And I just want to thank you all for joining us here on the official Xbox podcast. Again, if you haven't checked out that Diablo episode, if you haven't checked out that Overwatch episode, it is sitting there waiting for you. And we will be back here in September
Yeah,
for
sounds great.
BlizzCon, which is going to be really cool. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. And we'll have another episode coming up for you really soon. So see you then.